This episode brought to you by How to Write Manga, your complete guide to the secrets of Japanese comic book storytelling. Available wherever fine ebooks are sold.
The world has gone insane. Cosplayers rule the conventions. Gamers dominate the tabletop and the internet. Sci-fi subjugates the movies, and fantasy rules the bookstore with an iron fist. Only one group can bring order to this unruly mob. A team of uber geeks, masters of the nerdly arts, trained for decades in the hobby shops and basements of the nation. Mobilized by the secret masters, they are the Department of Nerdly Affairs.
Hi all, Rob here. I apologize for the episode being a little late. I unfortunately came down a little sick this week. You can probably hear it in my voice, and so I just wanted to apologize for that. Also, I wanted to add a few notes for this episode. This show is a little different than what we tend to do on the DNA podcast. Usually we're a more history and pop culture focused show, but Don and I both share a long-time fascination with the supernatural, and have read about it quite a bit over the years in our own way. So when Don told me he knew a spiritual medium, I was all over the idea of getting her on the show to explore the unknown, and Mary was kind enough to join us for what turned out to be an amazing interview just before Christmas last year. We had a great time and discussed some really interesting things, and Mary herself is an incredibly charming and intelligent person to talk to about the subject, so it was great. Unfortunately, due to my recording software updating itself right before the interview and screwing up all of the settings, the audio for that interview was totally unusable, which kinda sucked. But Mary is a great sport, and so when we got the chance to set up another interview to try again, we did it, and this time it all seemed to go off without a hitch. And in all honesty, this interview is even better than the first one. The first one covered more topics, but this one's more in-depth, and I'd say a lot more fun. However, when I went to edit this episode, I discovered that once again, a mysterious error had cropped up. In this case, my audio, which to Mary and Dawn during the interview sounded just like it does to you right now, is weirdly distorted and blown out. Dawn and Mary sound perfectly normal, but on my end, it's total crap. So, I debated what to do, and in the end I decided that the sin of wasting this great interview was worse than subjecting your ears to a few dozen lines of poor quality audio. Also, while my audio is horrible at the beginning, it does get somewhat better as it goes along, and I've done some tricks to soften some of the harshness, which will hopefully help a little bit. But I'm not going to lie to you, it's pretty bad. If you can't handle it, I totally understand, and you can tune in to the next episode when Dawn pulls a little trick on me and our friend Chad that none of us saw coming. However, if you do, you're totally going to miss a great episode. And really, I suggest listening to the whole thing. Where else are you going to hear an actual discussion about how many ghosts haunt North America's busiest highway, the 401, and what it's like to drive on a highway that's filled with ghosts? How cool is that? Speaking of which, I feel I should put in a small disclaimer here. Like Mary herself says, everything she talks about is just one point of view about the supernatural. This show neither disputes nor endorses Mary's views and does not encourage the practice of magic or treating the supernatural like a toy or game. There's a lot we don't understand about the world we live in, but there is one thing that always seems to be true. Actions have consequences. And remember that before you try something stupid like playing with a Ouija board. Okay, now that we've got that covered, on with the show. And again, sorry about the poor quality audio at the start. Really, it gets better, I promise. Cross my heart, I swear.
Hello, operatives, and welcome to the Department of Nerdly Affairs. I'm your host, Rob Patterson, here with my co-host, Don Chisholm.
Yep.
And today, we've got an extra special guest. Psychic medium Mary Bezaire is here with us today to discuss her background and her explorations into the unknown. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Hi.
So, Mary, why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself? So, how did you become a psychic medium?
Well, that's kind of interesting, Rob. I had no previous experience. I did not see spirit as a child. Nothing paranormal happened to me. I had my last child, I had a cesarean section with no anesthetic. It didn't work.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
So trauma opened up something for me. I came back to work and I was dealing blackjack at the time and started to pick up people's emotions. So imagine what that is like. I'm sitting across from angry gamblers
Mm-hmm.
and picking up all their emotions. So I would go home and cry and think I was losing my mind and wanted to go on antidepressants because I thought I was crazy. I didn't understand what was happening to me.
I bet, yeah.
So synchronicity happens. I switch departments and I start to talk to people about different things, and things just happen to fall into place. I happened to go to this healing night at a church, and they were doing something called Reiki, which is the therapeutic touch, hands-on healing.
Right.
There I met somebody who invited me to sit in a meditation circle, and then I started attending services at this spiritualist church, and there is where I met my teacher and mentor, Margarita Arno.
Oh, wow.
Who taught me everything I know.
Now, what's Margarita's background? Sorry.
No, that's okay. She was brought up in Trinidad, and she has a very staunch Catholic background. A lot of her family were nuns and priests who were involved in exorcisms.
Wow.
Her mother is Hindu. Her father was Portuguese. Her mother was a natural-born medium.
Wow.
So she taught her a lot of metaphysical stuff. They learned a lot of stuff on the island. Some of the people that worked for them were into voodoo. So she learned a lot of that too. She went to Catholic school, and then she went to New York to study with Clifford Bias, who is an incredible psychic medium. And she came over to New York in, I believe, the 50s, late 50s, maybe early 60s. I can't remember the date. Anyway.
So you're saying she's not a young woman then?
No. She's in her 80s. She's in a nursing home. She's got dementia. She's in her 80s now. I met her 18 years ago after I had my last child. And so she studied, and she also studied in England. She went to Arthur Finley's College in England. So she's got a huge metaphysical background. So she took me under her wing, taught me pretty much everything I know, and I guess the rest is history.
Okay, wow, that's fantastic. Well, it really is synchronicity that you met the right person you needed at the right time.
That's what they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And it all kind of really fell into, and I don't believe in coincidence, it all kind of fell into a really weird pattern. Like, it was really cool how it all happened.
That's fantastic.
Like, dun, 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 you know?
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue your story then. So you meet her, and she's starting to help you understand your abilities or what your situation is. What happens next?
She teaches me meditation. I learned Reiki. I learned that opened up a lot of psychic ability too. That getting into the hands-on healing, opening up energy channels, that opened up some stuff for me too. She taught me to read tarot.
No, hold on a sec. Sorry, just interrupt again. But when you're doing this at this stage, is your focus to try to get rid of this? Like, you consider this like a burden that or almost not disease. Disease is the wrong word, but a curse that you're trying to get rid of? Or
no, no at all. It was a wonderful gift. Once I understood what it was. Once I understood that I'm not crazy and I'm not the only one.
Right.
Once I understood how to turn it off at work. Because that was really difficult. That was really, really, to be able to shut that down, working in the building that I work in with all those people, not only angry gamblers, there's angry staff.
Oh, I believe that.
So Dawn's giggling, picking up that energy too, it sucks the life out of you. So learning to shut it down, learning to turn it off, that was a skill in itself.
I bet.
That took a long time, because I would go home exhausted and emotionally spent, crying, feeling achy, like I had been beaten up, and I had to learn to shut that down. And getting out of dealing, that was one of the best things I ever did, because it was not conducive with my personality.
Just to note, folks, she's talking about dealing cards, not dealing drugs.
Yeah, blackjack and poker. That's it.
So yes, I can see not dealing with people under those circumstances would make a big deal. Although, wouldn't you be able to tell when people are cheating?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know. I never came across that. I never had anybody really cheat at my table, not that I was aware of.
Okay. Well, if they're really good, you wouldn't be aware of it, I guess.
That's a really good question. No, I think I was just so bombarded by anger, and I just kind of shut down. I didn't
Right.
want to know. I didn't want to see. I just make it stop, make it stop.
Right. Now,
I didn't understand it.
Now, how did this affect your family life? Like, you're married, I assume?
Yes, well, that's a really interesting story, because at first I didn't go to my husband with what was happening to me. I kept it quiet because I thought I
Right.
was crazy and he would think I was nuts.
Right.
And so it took me a long time to be able to explain to him what was happening to me. And then once he saw I got control of it, I got better at it, I got to be able to, not to use it, but okay, yes, to use it to my advantage. He said it made him feel like I appreciated him more. It made him feel like I treated him like he was more important.
I see. Well,
so that was really cool. So I don't understand how that worked, but he said whatever the change came over me, he felt more important.
That may be because when you were first experiencing this, you would become very self-focused and withdrawn.
Yes.
That happens with many people who experience like mental illnesses, and they literally shut themselves off from the world because they're so busy dealing with their inner pain that they don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so what may have happened is you withdrew and then you've come out again, and now maybe you're also more empathetic. Maybe you actually do understand him more.
And yeah. And he sees me helping a lot of people, and that makes him proud. You know, there's other things too.
Yeah, that's good. So he is supportive then of what you do.
Very supportive. Yeah, he created this room that I have that I do my readings in. He's very, very supportive of all that I do.
Right. And how about your children then? How do they feel about this?
My youngest one is kind of indifferent to it. She just kind of looks at me kind of sideways. And my oldest one is a little bit curious. She was more interested when she was younger. Now she's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think she thinks it's interesting, especially if her friends think it's really interesting.
Right. Is she a teenager yet?
My one is 25 and my one is 19.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they're both beyond being teenagers. So they're at the point where they can understand. Sorry, Don, go.
I was going to say, well, there's a question, too. Has any of them ever shown any aptitude for this sort of thing?
Well, my oldest daughter, Jessica, has her first degree in Reiki, so she can do healing. And my youngest daughter, Catherine, she had a natural ability as a child. She hasn't shown so much of it now, but as a little one, she used to see spirit and used to tell me stuff. And I had to clear out upstairs. There was something coming in and waking her up every single night at the same time and making her scream like crazy. And for years, she wouldn't go upstairs. We moved her downstairs. She wouldn't go back upstairs. Just this year, she moved back upstairs. And she would be able to put the heat that would come from her hands. She had this natural healing ability.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. But not so much anymore. Now she's very focused on school. She's history. So, maybe later on in life, something will come out. Either one of them.
Right.
Yeah. Right now, they got things going on. I mean, at their age, I wasn't interested in any of this stuff either.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Busy, very busy, I had a baby at this age.
Right. Oh, little focused. So you mentioned seeing spirits, so we should probably talk about that then. So what was your first experience seeing a spirit then? Like you said, you felt these people all around you at the casino, at your work, but were you seeing ghosts at the casino? Where were you seeing spirits? Tell us about that.
Not at first. The first time I ever saw one was in my house.
Right.
I was sitting on the floor in my living room, and Katie had been up fussing, so I was sitting on the floor with her, just trying to quiet her down. And a man came through my front porch. There's windows, and there's my front porch. He came through that little bit of wall between the window and the front door. There's a foot in between there. There's just that brick. Came right through that wall, and he looked like I swear to God, he looked like the Beefeater man off the gin bottle, but instead of being in black and red, he was all in browns.
Right.
Scared the life out of me.
I bet.
I almost had an asthma attack. I'm on the floor going, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. I became like Rain Man. It was unreal because it scared me. I was not expecting it. I was very, very relaxed, and he just looked at me. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me, and then and then I closed my eyes really tight, like a child. I can't see you, you can't see me. And I opened my eyes and he was gone.
Right.
Because I was not prepared. I was not looking for it. I was not asking for it. It just happened. And then it was a long time after that before I could see spirit again.
Right. Now, did you see that particular spirit again? Would he pop up another time?
Yes, he was one of my guides that had come around. I had somebody explain it to me because I thought, am I nuts? Did I really see this? So I went to see somebody who was well-advanced psychic who explained to me, and I didn't tell her who it was. I didn't describe him. I said, I saw something, and she told me what I saw. So then I knew, yes, okay, you're legit, you're real. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because sometimes when you see, and that's a whole other topic about, you give them too much information, they just read your body, or they fill in the blanks. You know what I mean? But I just let her do the talking. I said, I saw something, and she told me what I saw.
Yeah, that's a good test. Now, just to take a step back, what exactly are guides? Like you just mentioned guides. What are they?
Well, we have different spirit friends, spirit helpers, if you will. That's a really good way, simple way to explain it. And they come in and they learn and grow with us. As we have a learning process, they also have a learning process. Now, some of them are with you for a whole life. Some of them are with you for just a short period. You have medical doctors, chemical doctors, physical doctors. You have Indian braves. You have your gatekeeper who protects you, keeps you safe from unwanted energies, unwanted spirits. You have your master teacher. You have your doctor of philosophy. And then there's other guides that come in and grow at different periods of your life. If you're changing careers, if you're having children, if you have trauma in your life. So they'll come and assist with different things.
Right. Okay. Now, question then, something just occurred to me. Is it possible that some of these guides are actually just another manifestation of your own spirit, of your own consciousness? It's almost like you're creating them yourself? I'm not saying all of them, but that some of them are actually they're another aspect of you that's coming out, like your own subconscious?
Not from anything I've ever studied, but hey, anything's possible.
Oh, sorry, that's just a thought that just came to me.
That is a really interesting thought. I never thought about that before, but I have never come across anything like that. Okay. Even in doing readings or in anything I've ever read or studied or been taught.
Because it just seems to me odd to me that, these supposedly, we'll call them sentient or self-aware ghosts would just spend their time hanging around, teaching people and helping other, mortals, so to speak. Now, maybe that's the way the system works. I don't know. But it just occurred to me that it would make more sense. This is just me being logical. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That if it would make more sense if what you're really looking at is different aspects of your own consciousness, your own spirit, or maybe even past lives. So they are connected to you. They are a part of you. And so you're manifesting them, and this is just simply a way to interact with aspects of yourself or your spirit or your consciousness or whatever.
That's a really good question. I'm going to have to investigate that.
That's just a thought that I had.
No, that's really, really, really interesting. And when you say that, my mind automatically goes to doppelganger, which is which is another part of like seeing yourself double or a ghost of yourself or another energy of yourself. But does that
happen very often?
I've never come in contact with one ever.
Okay.
But doesn't mean it doesn't happen just because I didn't see it. Right. I haven't seen the Pope, and apparently he's there too. So,
supposedly.
I'm not being flippant.
No.
But I've never heard or seen or come in contact with anything like that. Now, I've seen past lives of people where I have seen images of what they've looked like in a past life and flashes of it, but not around them in their energy field.
Right.
Supporting them. And I've had people that had past life with them that have come back to help them.
Well, wait a second. If it's a past life, though, isn't that just that person's spirit? How can the past life be separate from the main person? I don't understand. Isn't that all your past lives? Aren't they just you? Like they're just your spiritual evolution as you're working along, or do I understand it wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. But what I'm saying is some of the guides have spent a past life with you. You know them from a past life.
Okay. Okay, they're friends from past lives. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Sorry, Don, I keep interrupting you. Please go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, there's a couple things. One of
Let's backtrack. Go ahead.
one of the theories, and you can hopefully elucidate on this a little bit, is when you mention spirits, people automatically think you're talking about like a ghost or the spirit of the dead. But there's also the common term I've seen for them would be what's called an elemental, which some cultures would refer to that like a demon, or like a woodland spirit if you go to the more nativist animist. And it's possible if you've got I would think a guide, it could be either of those. And what I've heard too is that, say, the elementals, the natural occurring spirits, a lot of times they're affected by the people, by the wills, by like the minds around them, that shapes them to a degree, and that affects them to a degree.
Yeah, I've read stuff about that too. You can have little elementals, especially people that are closer to nature or closer to animals. They will attract elementals.
Okay. And
people that are avid gardeners, people that like their hands in the dirt, will attract elementals. People that really, really want to help animals.
We'll end up with animal guides that stick with them.
You can have power animals too.
Okay, power animals. That sounds like something worth collecting.
Yeah. Well, when you do native studies, when you do shamanic studies and do journey work, which is meditation to the beat of a drum, and then you do it their way, where you either go, and then they talk about the upper world, the middle world, the lower world, which doesn't mean heaven or hell. It just means different levels where you would come across different energy beings. And you would enter into that world. You see an animal 3 times, and that's supposed to be your spirit animal. Your totem animal, whatever you want to call it, because it's all the same kind of thing. That's really cool to do those kind of meditations. They just take you on a whole different level. Right.
Now, do you have a spirit animal?
Yes, I have 2 actually. I have giraffe and I have a unicorn.
Okay, the giraffe part, giraffe part's interesting in and of itself, but we'll put a pin on that. A unicorn, but unicorns don't exist.
But they do in journey work, and they do in metaphysical.
Oh, okay.
Just like dragon, just like, all of those other metaphysical animals.
So again, those are reflections of human consciousness and human ideas and such, as opposed to being, as far as we know anyway, real. Who knows? Maybe they are real in some other reality.
All of it is connected to your imagination, right? Depending on how you can project your imagination, how can you see a picture in your mind? Daydreaming. How do you project that picture in your mind? Your imagination has to open up, just like creating a painting or creating a story. So it's all the same thing. So is it real? Is it your imagination? I don't know. Does it matter? I'm sorry. I'm just throwing all kinds of stuff.
No. Just toss stuff out. This is awesome. Actually, I'm enjoying this. No, because it does come down to I really do think that a lot of this stuff is stuff that the way our brain is shaping our perceptions of it. It's not really the way it is per se. It's the way our brain is interpreting it. Because our limited consciousness and awareness has to interpret it somehow. And this is just how we interpret these things. Which, again, would make sense why you would get things like unicorns, I suppose. But, yeah, you're a little far afield to have a giraffe as your spirit animal, though. That is a little unusual.
Well, I don't know. They show incredible strength. They're beautiful. They're majestic.
I agree. I agree with all of those. It's just we're in the wrong continent for them.
He just showed his face to me, and 3 times right in my face. I got this beautiful giraffe.
Well, okay. There you go. That's very cool.
Yeah, there's usually when you have like an animal totem or animal spirit, there's usually the different animals represent ideals, and I think the unicorn it's like spiritual cleansing and protection, if I remember. But the giraffe, I don't know what that one is.
That one I have to look up again in Animal Speaks, which I do have a copy of it somewhere, but I know it's the strength and the long neck. It has something to do with that, and the gentleness.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, you're always sticking your neck out for other people.
You know, I do a lot.
So there we go. Maybe it's more literal than metaphorical.
And that's true. And then they have issues with their neck and with their spine. And I have 4 herniated discs, so go figure that, right?
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, I've had that experience. Not fun.
No. But they're really beautiful, beautiful, wonderful creatures. And I'm glad to have them around me.
I bet. Now, speaking of animals and such, so I've got a question from my wife, actually. I was mentioning about we were doing this interview with her, and she said, so to ask you, do our dogs, like our dogs and cats, our pets, basically, do they stay with us after they die?
Yes, they do. A lot of times they do. I know I had a little Cocker Spaniel, Cockapoo, as a child. He comes through every reading I ever have. Who's the little black dog with you? I had that dog when I was 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do people actually occasionally ask you? Do they see it sometimes?
Sometimes when I have readings, but sometimes when I read people, I'll do something called the flame card.
Okay.
Which is they hold a little recipe, the little plain recipe cards you get at the dollar store.
Right, yeah.
I have them hold it between their hands, and then I burn it over a candle flame. And images come up. Really, really cool. Really, really cool, because it moves. I can watch it move in images form. And a lot of times pets will come through. I'll actually be able to describe what kind of dog it was, what kind of cat it was. Or one time when I was working with one of my people from hospice, because I volunteer, people with end of life, I do energy work with them, Reiki. I had the cat come. The man had a cat, I don't know how many years ago, but I described what the cat looked like. The cat was right under my nose, and I had an allergic reaction.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, I had hives and everything from a spirit cat.
That shouldn't be possible, but okay, sure, why not?
They watched it happen, and all of a sudden I was congested, and I started getting hives because this cat was rubbing itself in my face.
Even on the other side, cats are still dicks.
And I love animals. I'm just deathly allergic to cats, so I don't have cats. I have a dog.
Right.
And this cat was all over me. He's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And it came up my neck, and it looked like somebody had beaten me. I had red blotches all over my neck, all over my face. I had to take an antihistamine. Yeah. So it was a really strong presence.
That's very odd. Okay.
It's kind of it's cool,
Yeah.
But kitty cat, go away.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Wow.
Yeah, I've had lots of animals come through.
I bet you have. Well,
it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. So then our pets really do, maybe not always, but they often just stay with us. And while we're going, although there's an interesting question. When pets pass on, is that again part of the whole spiritual evolution thing? They will eventually be reborn themselves as other creatures or whatever? How does that work?
Well, from what I've read, usually they wait for you on the Rainbow Bridge, which is a place where you meet your loved ones and your pets and your animals. And it usually takes, from what I've read, and just because I say it doesn't make it so, but just what I've studied, at least 250 years between each life cycle before you're reborn again.
We have to wait 250 years to get reborn again?
Yeah, you need that time, and their time, as opposed to our time, is a flash in the pan.
Oh, okay.
So time is very different.
Yeah, time moves at different speeds.
Than we are. Very, very different. So yes, they would wait for you, and yes, we do progress. So we've been everything. We've been mineral. We've been dirt. We've had lifetimes as animals. We've had lifetimes as amoebas. We've had lifetimes as sand. So we've been everything, from what I've studied.
This sounds very Buddhist.
Or Hindu.
Or Hindu. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have that kind of background. I mean, my teacher her mother was Hindu. So
Right,
if I have a
yeah.
little bit of that flavor, I've learned that too. And you know what? I don't believe one religion has the cornerstone on everything. I
Right.
think they all have something really good to offer, and if you take the best and brightest of each thing and grow with that, I think that's awesome. So then you don't have a religion, you have a spirituality.
A spiritual outlook, or that
Yeah.
sounds beautiful.
Rather than stick to all the heavy dogma and the rules and regulations. Keep it simple, just be nice.
Right. Now, since you do some end of life work at the hospice, have you actually been there when people have passed on?
Yeah.
So did you see anything when that happened? Like, do you see, like,
I saw a mist. It's the most cool thing.
relatively speaking?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like being there when they're born too. It's kind of a privilege. You can see very, very faintly a mist comes from either their solar plexus or from their forehead. Now, I've never seen it come from the forehead yet. I've only seen it come from the solar plexus, which is just above the belly button.
Right,
The
yes.
energy where you feel fight or flight, right there. So I've seen it, and I've only been there twice, and I've seen it there. But I do have a friend who's a nurse who sits in meditation and stuff with me, and she has seen lots of it. So I have only seen it twice myself, but she has seen lots more. But I've been there a lot when they're very, very close to death. And I have been there several hours before they die, and I have seen loved ones come. And I've been able to describe, because I'm watching their eyes, and then I can see in the corner who they're looking at.
Right.
And they recognize them, and I'll say, there's a lady right there, blah, 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 blah. And yes, yes, yes. And it's really cool to watch them look around and see the peace that comes over their face, because going into the unknown is very, very scary.
Yes.
But you get a little bit of comfort knowing that they can see somebody coming for them, that they're not alone.
Right.
So you don't ever go alone. And, that's everybody's belief system. It's just what I have seen. So, again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not trying to be preachy.
Right. No, but
I hear Don giggling. I hear you giggling back there.
But, okay, so sorry to continue my line of questioning then, but is it just their loved ones that come for them? Like, is there such a thing as, like, the spirit of death, so to speak, or other spirits that come for the people who are dying? Or is it just their loved ones?
I've never experienced a spirit of death per se, but I have seen loved ones come in my own experience.
That's good. Okay, I can work with that. That sounds good.
Yeah, because there's...
But I don't know if there's a spirit of death. I've never seen it. But there could be. But I wouldn't think it's scary like the Grim Reaper. I would think it's more a gentle, kind of like, you ever seen that program Touched by an Angel? And the angel of death, Andrew, he was very sweet and very gentle.
Right,
That's what I picture.
Right.
Something very gentle and sweet. But then again, it depends on your belief system.
Yes.
Because your imagination comes into factor. If you believe you are going to hell, then you are going to experience hell. I just watched my stepfather pass away in August.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And thank you. And he was very, very afraid. Now, he lived a very hard life, blah, 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 sidebar. Anyway, he was raised staunch Catholic, so he thought he was going to go to hell for the things that he did. And we had to keep telling him, let go. You're not going to hell. You're not going to suffer. You've been forgiven. Everything's okay. Because you could see it. He was afraid. And then he would be looking around, and you could see he was looking around. And I was sitting with my sisters, and I'm like, put your hand over him and feel. And they actually got to experience the energies of beings around him. You could actually feel it. Tangibly put your hand near and feel the difference in the air. I know it sounds crazy, but we did. And they got to be a part of that.
Right.
While he was dying. But to experience that, you feel fear, so you're going to experience what you think you're going to experience.
Right.
Because you create it. You create it in your mind. Because you don't just die. You're a ball of energy. You just change. So you leave your body behind, but you're still you. So if you were a jerk in life, you're going to be a jerk in death. So there's no hope, Don. There's no hope. They're all coming to find you.
I'm okay with that. Bring them on. Yeah.
Yep.
But that goes, what you were saying, what Rob was getting at, I know that there's a lot of Eastern religions that there's this idea that the afterlife is a bureaucracy, because I've heard stories and read reports of people who've had near-death experiences, and they get to the other side, and there's like a bureaucrat waiting for them, and then they get shuffled with it. It's just like going to the DMV here kind of thing.
Join the line.
Yeah. In the West, we call it purgatory. We don't picture it like a giant line, but I've heard reports from others that that's what happens, and then the guy gets to the end of the line. He's like, "You're not supposed to be here," and he goes back.
Never read anything about that.
Right. So there's a question then, Mary. So since you can communicate with spirits and that, do they ever tell you what happens exactly after we die? Like, have you
I've had some stuff where they haven't actually come back and told me step by step about what happened. Mostly what I get is, I'm okay, and then they move on.
Right.
I've read channeled stuff. I haven't had channel stuff happen for me per se about what happens when they die.
Right.
But I have had them come back. One of my ladies that I work with and actually spoke at her funeral after she passed came to my meditation circle and let me know she was okay.
Okay, that's nice. Well, I guess the important thing is that there is an afterlife. I guess that's something to keep in mind. Or seems to be anyway. Okay, then, so since there is this afterlife waiting for us, why do some spirits seem to stay in this world? Why do we have ghosts then? Or other spiritual beings here on the planet?
Well, that's mostly because they don't realize they're dead and they're hanging on to something. Hanging on to money, hanging on to a situation, hanging on to a table, a chair, hanging on to possessions. So they don't realize that they passed traumatically, and they don't realize. Somebody that got knocked out of their body from an accident, they don't know that they're dead, or they were murdered. Stuff like that. A lot of trauma. 401. If you could see the spirits that wander the 401, it's horribly sad.
It would look like Night of the Living Dead, I bet.
You know what? It does.
I hope you're not the one driving on the 401. That would be damn hard to drive with all these like spiritual zombies wandering around the place.
If I'm driving, I tune it out. But if I'm a passenger, sometimes I can see. And sometimes I don't see full bodies. I see shimmers. It's, like the heat off the road.
Right.
I see it as a shimmer of a shape.
Wow. That would be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And hospitals are like that for me too.
So have you used this ability to actually help with some hauntings and things like that?
Yeah, I have crossed over quite a few spirits, yeah.
Okay, so why don't you tell us about that, about your experience as helping with, I believe you work with the Windsor Paranormal Society, or I'm sorry, I've forgotten what it's called.
Spectral Solutions. I've worked with them several times, yeah. Yeah, Shannon and I are really good friends. She's the leader of that group. Very, very nice lady.
Right.
So they'll call me in every once in a while if they have a situation that they think I need to come clear. So I go in. I walk around the house first to see what I feel. Go sit in the room where I think or I feel or sense the most energy. I have had experiences where there really isn't a haunting. It's somebody thinks somebody maybe needs some help psychologically. I've had that experience too. But several times I've had to actually clear an energy out. I've had somebody hit me. I've had somebody shove me in the back. I've had my hair pulled. When I start doing the ritual that I do to clear out the place, they come right at me. That's how I know for sure there is somebody in here. If I start doing the ritual and nothing is happening, then I know, let's just do this for them so that they know that I've done this. They can feel safe, and it's kind of like a placebo.
Right, yeah. I can see that.
But when there is the energy in there, then it takes me a little bit longer. I use the 91st Psalm. It's a psalm of protection. I make my own holy water. I go through and there's I mentally work with them. I psychically work with them. I use this prayer of protection and go through the house, room by room, corner by corner, and do my thing. And then I'm also psychically working with them, telling them to go to the light. I try to tap into their loved ones to call somebody forward to come and get them because they're stuck in the house. And renovations, if you renovate an old house, this is where you're going to find, if there's somebody in your house, dollars to donuts, here comes the activity. When you start messing with an old house.
So you're suggesting buying old houses is not always the best choice?
Well, no, I'm not saying that either, but just be aware that if you're messing with an old house and you start doing renovations, you could stir up something that you didn't know was there.
Right. Now, you mentioned before when you saw your first spirit that he didn't say anything in that. Do spirits talk? Like, have you actually had a conversation with a spirit?
Yep.
So, in the case of when you're going to with Spectral Solutions, when you're communicating with some of these spirits, can you actually have a conversation with them?
Sometimes it's more in my head, so telepathic. Sometimes I actually hear them, and I will talk out loud to them. We had a situation at with Spectral Solutions. We were in Heritage Village.
Right.
So highly, highly haunted, really cool place. If you want to go experience some ghosts, go there. Even during the day, highly, highly haunted.
Where is Heritage Village?
That's in Essex.
Oh, okay, so it's this. Oh, so it's
a museum. It's the car museum, and then the village behind.
Okay. We're in southwestern Ontario. You're talking about Essex County. We have international listeners, so I just want to make that clear.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's in the city of Essex, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's on the main road in Essex, and don't ask me how to get there because I'm horrible with directions. I can get there, but I can't help anybody else get there. But we were in the train station. They had brought this old train station there. So all of these homes, they made this little village of all these old homes. Jack Miner's house is there. They brought these old, they're like log cabins, really cool old homes. The train station. There is a fella in there, and I got his name verified by somebody who knows the area very well, who knows the history. He came up, we were in the big train station, and this male energy came up behind me, and I could see him with a cup and saucer, and all I could smell was whiskey, and he's breathing on the back of my neck, and I had to tell him to back off, and you're not fooling me, and I said it right out loud, you're not fooling me, I know what's in your teacup, and all I could smell was this whiskey. And sure as heck, his name was Whiskey Jack. And I got that verified later.
Right.
We go into one of the houses. It's called the Waggett. I believe it's called the Waggett House. And the dining room table is all set up. And there's a female energy in there who loves these dishes. You go anywhere near that table and you feel like somebody shoved you in the chest. You have to ask permission to touch the dishes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she makes all the cupboard doors open and close. It is so cool. So cool.
Yeah, that is. Now, but you keep mentioning male and female energy. Does our gender stay with us after we die?
Well, yeah, because you stay the same as who you are until you're reborn into a different sex.
Oh, okay. So we can be reborn into any other sexes and such.
Oh, yes, yes.
But we stay, okay, I see your point. As long as we're still, until we're reborn, we still have that male or female energy or whatever.
Yeah, until you cross over and, do what you have to do and then decide whether or not you're going to become again. Because you don't have to come again.
Right.
You can stay on the other side.
Right.
So if you don't want to be born again, that's completely up to you. But she's something else, that one.
I bet. Wow.
It's really cool.
And obviously, you're not trying to get rid of her because she's part of the show.
Well, it's not my place to get rid of her. It's not my. I could cross her over if she wanted to cross over, but it's not my space. I haven't been invited to do that. So I'm not interfering. No, I don't interfere where I'm not supposed to.
We're not supposed to. So if you were sitting, let's say you're sitting at we'll say the train station, for example, not that train station, but a regular train station, and you see a ghost wandering around, you don't you just sit there and watch it. You won't make any effort to actually find out why it's there or to help it go across or anything like that.
Not
You
unless
just
it came to me.
right. And can they sense that you can see them? Are they aware? Are
A
they
lot of
aware that
times,
you are
yep.
different? Okay.
Yep, they'll come, and sometimes I'll have, this is very, very uncomfortable for me. When I'm at work or when I'm out and I'm just me, I'm not practicing anything, I'm not doing anything, I'm minding my own business.
Right.
You have a spirit come, and it's like a little child pestering you. Tell them, tell them, tell them, tell them, tell them. And you feel like an idiot. You feel embarrassed, and you're like, oh my God, I'm making myself so vulnerable right now.
Right.
They're going to treat me like I'm a freak. Excuse me, so-and-so is here. I'm really not crazy, but I need to tell you this. And so far, it's been okay. So far, nobody's took a swing at me. So far, nobody has run for me screaming. So far, they have been very welcoming, and it's been really good. But I really don't like doing that.
Yes.
You know, like Long Island Medium walks up to strangers. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I don't walk around tapping into your energy. I don't want to. I don't want to know what's going on around you. I want to mind my own business. If you don't invite me in and I tap into you, that's me invading your privacy, and it's wrong. It's unethical. It's wrong. And you're opening yourself up to all kinds of crap. Bad karma, whatever you want to call it. I'm mind my own business. I shut it down. I'm at work. I'm shutting it down.
Right.
So if something comes through, then I know it's something really, really strong and somebody needs to hear it. I really don't like doing it.
Right. Now, speaking of bad stuff and that, have you actually ever encountered demons? Like actual, we'll call it evil?
Only the one experience I had in Boston, and I cannot find the picture. I'm going to have to ask Shannon again for that picture. It was her and I. We went to Boston. For Halloween, of course. We went to Salem. We went to, this is my kind of trip, right? Lizzie Borden's house.
Right.
So that's my Halloween fun. So we go to Boston, and we're in the oldest cemetery in Boston. And it's not Devil's Night, but it's the night before Devil's Night. It's pouring down rain. She took a picture, and she caught something. And I guess I was pacing and wringing my hands. And she said, "What's the matter with you?" And I said, "I don't know, but I don't like it in here. I want to go. I don't want to be here. I'm uncomfortable." And we looked at her pictures later, and I was really glad it wasn't on my camera, because whatever it was small, and it was not human, and it was very, very weird looking. I'm not going to say it looked like a devil, but it was small, and it wasn't human, and it was scary, and it was kind of like a shadowy figure, but it was little. It was little, maybe 2 feet high. And I didn't like it. So I got to try and get that picture to Dawn.
Right. Okay. Yeah, please do.
Because I had it a couple times, and it's gone. It disappeared. Again, see, this is normal for me. It disappeared.
It keeps disappearing. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. But you must have, like, if you're going to haunted houses, you must have encountered some, okay, maybe not evil spirits or demons, but spirits that are definitely not happy.
Yes. Angry spirits. We were in the Harry Lowe house, and we had a spirit tell us it wanted us to leave. And it was, we were all quiet in a circle, and I had my trumpet, which is a cylinder metal tube, and it looks like a cone, and spirit uses it to either speak to you, or it moves it around, and you can see the ectoplasma, which is the smoky energy. It looks like smoke coming from the top of it. And we had it in the circle of the center of our circle, and we were asking, "Do you want us to leave?" And we all heard, there was 20 of us down there, heard definitively, like a when a teenager's fed up with you, and they have that long, slow sigh. It was clear as a bell, and I think they have it on recording. I think Shannon has it on Spectral's website. And we're like, okay, we're out of here. You want us gone? We're out of here. Okay. So
Totally
we left.
Not like the movies.
No.
Okay,
no, not at all. But we had a lot of interaction in that place. That place is really, really highly haunted. We had that place for a few hours. We had incredible stuff happening with my dowsing rods and the pendulums. It was really, really interesting.
So
But I've been
how
hit
can...
and pushed and shoved. So you want to know about negative energies? I'm sorry, we'll circle back to that.
Please go. Yeah.
Clearing out a house, I had one of them pull my hair. I had a man shove me in the back really, really hard. But I think that's the worst I've ever encountered. Oh, no. When I cleared out somebody's house, I had they rattled dishes at me. That kind of unnerved me for half a second. I was closing an energy. There was I don't know, portal, whatever you want to call it, and a bad place, a bad energy vortex. And I needed to shut it down because it was sucking the life out of somebody.
Right.
And as I was getting it to close, it wasn't very happy with me. And it rattled all the dishes in the china cabinet. And I'm really glad that the lady of the house had gone upstairs and didn't hear this, because it unnerved me. If it would have unnerved her and she would have reacted, I wouldn't have been able to shut it down the way I did, because it would have fed off of her energy. And I just said, you stop that right now. I'm not afraid of you. And it stopped, and I shut it all down.
Right. You mentioned a bad energy vortex. In my head, I'm picturing like a little black hole or something like that. But what exactly is a bad energy vortex?
Well, again, renovating a house, the house renovation opened up something, and it was sucking the life very, very slowly out of this woman. Actually, it was my mother. It was my mother. So she had this energy, and she never told me about it. And I was never in the house long enough to feel it. Right. And then she was getting more and more depressed, more and more depressed. Well, she went to see another psychic friend of mine who said, why aren't you asking Mary to clear that out for you? And my mother was shocked that she knew about it. So I went in and I shut it all down. And it was a certain spot of her house where when I did tap into it, okay, here we go. It was making things move in her house. It was kind of like, Point Pelee has those lines, those energy lines where you can sit there, and Sedona has them too. Those energy you can feel. I don't know if it's magnetic lines or whatever, but it was kind of like that. It was just a spot. It wasn't a ghost. It was like somebody had opened a door, and it was sucking the life through this I don't know, sinking hole or some kind of weird, and it was a circle, it looked like psychically speaking, it looked like a little tornado, a little whirlpool. And I had to close it up. I had to fill it with light and close it up. And I know it sounds very, very strange, but those dishes rattled at me, and for a half second I felt my stomach weird.
And then it shut down.
And then I shut it down. I made the dishes stop rattling, and I shut it down. I didn't show fear.
Right.
But I wanted to. I'm telling you right now, I wanted to run out of the house. It scared the crap out of me to have those dishes rattled.
Why would
they all rattled at me?
Yeah. Why would showing fear make any difference? I'm sorry, because if it's not sentient, if it's not aware, if it's just a hole, showing fear wouldn't affect it, would it?
It would have given it energy. It would have given this energy, this negative sucking, life-sucking energy.
Okay.
And it would have made it stronger. I wouldn't have been able to close it down the way that I did.
Right.
Because it took a lot out of me to close it down.
Right.
I know it's very, very hard to understand, and it's very, very strange. Because I'd never dealt with this before. So I was going in here like, I hope I can do this. I didn't tell my mom that.
Right.
I just went in and figured I have to fix this. This is my mother. I have to fix this.
Right, yeah.
So I was going in blind, just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try. Because I have never come across this before, ever.
Right.
But so far, so good. She seems fine now.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But it was like being around somebody who's very, very negative, who's just sucking the life out of you. That's what this spot or hole, I don't even know how to describe it, was like. This just blob of energy, this blob of negative sucking, almost like a magnet sucking everything out of you. Because it got to the point where she wouldn't want to go out, and it was just terrible.
I believe it. So in some cases, then depression or some of these problems are actually being caused by spiritual ailments as opposed to physical ailments.
It could be, yeah. Yeah. And some of the people that are treated for schizophrenia and stuff are actually people that are possessed.
So possession is real. People can get possessed.
Absolutely. It's very, very hard to happen. And the average person, it won't happen to. But if you're weak-minded and you're dabbling into something you shouldn't be, or messing with drugs, yes, those are 3 things that can make things very easy for you to tap into. You start messing with Ouija boards, you start messing with things you shouldn't be messing with, and you're weak-minded. And puberty is also another very vulnerable age for that kind of stuff to happen to.
Oh, I see. So some teens that get involved in that stuff are actually opening themselves up to real problems.
Absolutely.
So there you go, kids. Don't mess with Ouija boards.
Seriously, it makes me crazy that they sell them at toy stores. They're not a toy. They are not a toy. They're very dangerous because you're attracting, especially if you're not doing stuff with prayer, you're playing with that kind of stuff. You're going to attract lower energy beings that are closer to the earth. So people that were drug addicts, people that were alcoholics that don't know that they're dead, or that are very angry and hanging on to something. So you're going to attract that. You don't want that around your child. You might as well just throw your child on the internet and sell them into slavery. You know what I mean? It's equal to that.
Okay. Okay. Luckily, usually nothing happens, but even if there's a 5% chance, it's not worth taking it.
No, I don't even play with the Ouija board, and I know what I'm doing.
Really, Ouija boards can actually be that dangerous. Wow, I had no idea.
You don't have the control. I have done seances, but I have control over that. I control who comes in. I control all of it when I do a seance. With a Ouija board, you can't control who you're talking to, and they can fake you out.
Right. Okay.
I don't trust.
Scary.
I don't play with any of that stuff.
Now, sort of, kind of coming at this sideways. There's a theory talking about, like, say, a haunting, and I'm wondering what your take is. That sometimes if you've got, like, say, like a haunted area, a haunted house, there's a theory that it's not necessarily a consciousness that's haunting it, but you get I've seen the term an echo.
Yeah.
That it's just like a non-sentient emotion or a fragment of, say, the will of the person who is attached to that. It's sort of an idea. So you'd say that's a thing too?
Oh yeah, it is. Residual haunting is what they call that. Yeah. So like, even if you go to the concentration camps, there may not be ghosts there, but that energy is there. You can feel it. That is what is similar to that.
Right.
So something horrible happened there doesn't necessarily mean that the person that died there is still there. No, but that energy of what happened there. So you had a horrific murder, you had a horrific rape, you had something awful, awful fire. But you feel that pain. The pain stayed, the emotion stayed, but the ghosts are gone, or the people are gone. So yeah, you can have that too.
Because I think this gets back to what Rob was saying about, say, the haunting. Like, if something's there and somebody's, say, afraid, that what can happen is that energy, like that emotion.
Oh, they feed off it.
Yeah, it resonates, it builds, and I've also there's also theories that what can happen is a spiritual entity isn't necessarily they're not necessarily strong and powerful. So you might have, say, a haunting that's a weaker spirit, or this ambient energy that, if there's a lot of fear, that fear kind of synchronizes and builds.
Yep. Yeah, just like any kind of frenzy. Anytime you have that kind of energy frenzy, and I'll use Hitler for an example. Look at the momentum he gained with his charisma. It's the same kind of thing. Any of that kind of energy, be it negative, be it positive, you build that up and you make everybody follow along, and you can make people feel things that they're not really even feeling.
Mm. Is that where the whole, like, I know some evangelical churches, they get to the whole speaking in tongues thing.
Oh my God, don't even get me started on that, because if it was real, then somebody in that congregation would speak that language and would be able to verify what you're saying. I'm sorry, but blah, 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 blah is not speaking in tongues. Forgive me, I don't mean to be flippant.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
But if it were real, would you not have something to verify it by? Why would God have somebody be touched and nobody be able to understand what he's saying? It doesn't make any sense.
Unless God's a jerk. God could be a jerk.
It doesn't
what if God was
sense.
one of us?
Yeah, there you go. Just a slob like one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that song too. That's hilarious. But does it make any sense? Like, if you have to use your common sense, and that's where people make me crazy, because they don't use any common sense. Think, just like saying that Jesus Christ is blonde and blue-eyed. He was born in the Middle East. What do Middle Eastern people look like? I don't know anybody who's blonde and blue-eyed. Born in Jerusalem.
There's
or
also,
Bethlehem or in the Middle East. How could he be blonde and blue-eyed?
Well, he's the Son of God.
Yeah.
No, come on.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just not buying it.
Well, there is though. If I can play non-devil's advocate, I guess.
Yeah.
Go.
There's also the idea, because when you start talking about spiritualism, you start getting into the nature of consciousness, which, if you look at scientifically, we only have kind of like a toehold on, and a lot of this, and a lot of, say, like the frenetic evangelicals, the ecstatic religious rituals, it kind of taps into an idea that a lot of us are more familiar with from sports. That if you study, say, like martial arts, especially, they talk about concentration and focus. But every sport talks about that. They talk about wanting it more. They talk about drive. It's a nebulous concept that we're all kind of aware of. And if you get into any kind of like physically aggressive team thing, there's this morale. Like they say in the military, morale is everything, because it builds. And it's this idea of again, what the ecstatic energy, which you could argue that when you get somebody at like a revival, that I think it's glossolalia, the speaking in tongues, that what's happening is they've tapped into this energy, except it's not directed, and it comes out as babbling, because essentially for a little bit that much energy breaks the circuit and breaks their brain.
Okay, I'll give you that much. But if it was real and it was really directed by God, somebody would be able to understand what that person was saying.
It could, and then that gets to the idea too that that you run into, again, talking about spirituality and consciousness. If you did have one of these events, for lack of a better word, I'll say mystical events, how would you know where that came from? Like, is it God? Is it coming from ourselves? Is it an outside ambient energy or influence? It's difficult to peg that down, because we don't have a lot of experience with that. At least the average person doesn't.
That's true.
But if it was real, and it did come from you, and it did come from God, it's all connected. If it was real,
right?
If you're going with the idea that we are all pieces of God, again, going back to Buddhism and Hinduism and such, that we are all just pieces of God anyway.
Yeah.
And that God is like the universal life force, that kind of thing.
Which again could just be the name that we're giving kind of after the fact to something. Because this is where it gets difficult, because when you talk about like I'll call it consciousness, but you could talk about soul, you could talk about spirit.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is. It's not entirely measurable.
No.
It does stuff we can't predict, and in some ways it's the problem of the person in the sandbox doesn't have the full view of the sandbox, the person out of it. But the people who finally get out of the sandbox don't generally come back that much to tell us about it.
That's true. Except in Mary's case, Mary's talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah, but I haven't had a lot of experience with them coming back to tell me what it's like for them. The only experience I've had is that I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right. So they can only text then, maybe send Twitter messages.
And it could be, and maybe it's just that enough time hasn't passed either.
That's
because
true.
time is subjective, right?
Right.
And our time is very different than their time. So maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, somebody will have enough energy, because it takes a lot of energy to communicate. It takes a lot of energy for me to be able to communicate with them. It exhausts me. And then they have to come down. I have to meet them kind of in the middle. So who knows, maybe in the next 10 years, the next 5 years, somebody will come through and say, hey, this is what happened. Maybe it's still too fresh, too new. Who knows?
Yeah, it also seems it's that idea. If you talk about anybody who contacts the living from whatever comes after, it does seem to be that idea. There has to be unfinished business. That makes that connection. Because even saying, just tell them I'm all right, that's that connection. That has nothing to do with the other side. That seems more like wrapping up loose ends here.
That's true. Yeah. They just send back, yeah, everything's okay, and then they won't tell us what it's like over there.
Or they can't.
Yeah, they can't.
They need that corporeal connection. They need that something that keeps that little bit of will trapped in the physical world, as it were.
Maybe.
Right.
But there are books out there that have channeled what happens when you die.
Okay.
I just have not had the first-hand experience of having one of them tell me. I haven't had a chance to channel any of that yet, but I've read about it. Other mediums that have maybe dedicated more time, more years. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not ready yet. Maybe I'm not strong enough yet. Who knows? It's not an exact science, and I don't have a definitive answer for you.
Yeah. Right. Now, would you want to?
Absolutely.
That sounds...
Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I meditate in what's called a cabinet. It's a little closet covered with a blanket, so that I just sit in a chair, raising a lot of energy. And underneath my chair, I have a basket with one of the recipe cards, pencils and pens, so that if somebody wants to write to me while I meditate, they can write to me, and it's covered with black velvet. And then my trumpet is beside me on the floor. Now, I've had the trumpet move around on the floor. I've heard it move, but I haven't had it lift up for them to talk to me yet. So it takes a long time. It's a long, long process. Like, this is very slow. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
And we want everything instant. Well, it's not going to work that way. You can't force this kind of stuff. It takes years. I hadn't even scratched the surface yet, and I've been doing it 18 years.
Right. So now I'm going to ask you something that this might be very uncomfortable, but this is, and you don't have to answer this, okay, if you don't want to in that, but has doing all this actually affected your perception of your own mortality, of your own, death?
Yep.
Yeah. How so?
I'm not afraid at all.
Not in the slightest.
Not at all.
Okay.
No. Doesn't mean I
makes
want
sense.
to die. Doesn't mean that.
Oh, of course.
But when it comes for my time, I'm okay with it.
Right.
And I'm okay with other people passing too. Much more okay now than I've ever been in my life. I don't find it as sad. Yeah, I'm going to miss being able to talk to them face to face. But I know that if I really want to communicate with them, all I have to do is think about them.
Right. That makes sense. And yeah, I can see where knowing or being aware that there's an afterlife would make things much more comfortable. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, we miss a friend when they move away or something like that. We know they're still out there, but that we still feel that sense of loss.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's normal. That's human.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so going back then, sorry to jump around a little bit, but going back then to the idea of, let's say, one of our listeners is renovating their new antique house that they bought, and there's some weird stuff going on in said antique house. Besides contacting maybe a local psychic research group or whatever, is there anything they can do to protect themselves or to clean the house themselves?
Absolutely. sage is always a really good idea. Before you do renovations, as
Mhm.
soon as you move into the house, first to begin, have it blessed. Have
Right,
it blessed
okay.
by somebody, because then you'll know right off the hop if there's something that comes out. Use sage your whole house.
Right.
It's a good cleaning. It's antiseptic anyways, so it's good physically for you. It's also good metaphysically for you. Go
Are we
through the
talking
house.
sprinkling it around or what?
Sage sticks, you burn them.
Right, okay.
You burn it over a plate and just walk around with it, because you don't want the ashes to start a fire. So just hold a plate.
Right, yeah.
You can buy these sage sticks at any metaphysical stores. They're really, really you can order them online. There's lots of places that sell them. They're very inexpensive. I think it's $3, but it's good. It just cleans the house out metaphysically and physically. And then you can surround your house with white light. You can do your own prayer work depending on what you believe in, and talk to whatever energy. If you feel like there's an energy in your house, talk to your energy. Have contact with it. I know it sounds silly, but make friends.
Right.
Explain what you're going to do. Tell them how much
Right.
if you feel like there's somebody in your home, explain to them what you're going to do. I know it sounds silly. Tell them you want to make the house beautiful, that you appreciate the house, that you love the house, but you just want to make some adjustments, and do it in a sense of peace and love. You may find it's a lot better that way. And if you still find things are bad, then you're going to have to call somebody to come clear it out. But if you do things very respectfully, just like when I go into a home I'm going to investigate, before I step in, I introduce, and I'm doing this all in my, telepathically, I introduce myself. I come in humbly. I come in respectfully. I don't just tromp around and be disrespectful. I come in very respectfully, because that way there you set a rapport. So even if this is somebody who's very angry, they kind of take a step back to go, oh, okay, you're not coming in here to be raging bull. Let's see what's going on. So they might not attack me so quickly. It's just a good rapport. It's like dealing with a bully. It's like dealing with people. Like, they're still people. They're still that person. So how do you deal with somebody? You be respectful. You don't just come in pounding your chest. You know what I mean? So you're introducing yourself to a stranger. Hello, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm here, blah, blah, blah. It works for me.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, I can see that. And you would want to be respectful towards them. Positive energy. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, there's still energies. They still feel things. They still sense things. They still know things. Just because they don't have a physical body, they could still hurt you. They can, if they've raised enough kinetic energy, they can throw things at you. They can move things, depending on their level. So you need to be respectful, just like dealing with a bully. A bully could take a swing at you. You need to be respectful and just kind of wait and watch.
Right.
Because it's interesting too. When you talk about stuff like that, if I can play, I guess this time around, it's the devil is imaginary's advocate here. It's also the idea that you'll get from a lot of philosophies that sort of thing, even if you don't believe in a spirit as an entity, when you move into a new space, you do something like that, you do a cleansing ritual, and it purifies you and syncs you up with the space. Like, that's people know about, say, like a feng shui.
Yep.
Is something people are familiar with, because that was a pretty popular thing a bit ago. But it's also that idea of synchronizing the environment to yourself, even if you don't believe there's a sentience there.
That's a really good idea.
Because that even gets to say cognitive psychology. This idea of if you don't believe in the spiritual at all, it's the idea of something that synchronizes you with your environment. It makes you comfortable. It establishes in your mind that sense. I don't necessarily want to say of dominance, but of pertinence.
Yes.
Like staking claim to your environment.
Without being aggressive and strong, but you're being you're being forceful without being aggressive.
Yeah.
Assertive
You're dominating the environment.
Without being aggressive.
Right.
It's a gentle setting yourself into it.
Exactly.
Kind of like putting
Bad
your
house.
toe
Bad
in the
house.
water.
Yeah.
Without jumping right into ice cold water.
Because that's the same thing too with even people who don't go in for spirituality at all. You'll hear express the idea that it doesn't feel like a home until I put up my painting of whatever that.
Yes.
It's that cognitive set. It's
yes.
It's I don't know how to explain it.
You're imprinting yourself on the house.
Yeah, and imprinting
environment.
the house on yourself.
Yeah.
Depending on whether you subscribe to the spiritual, the psychic, or the strictly psychological theory of that sort of thing.
Right, you're synchronizing yourself with it. You're basically, yeah. So, okay, I can see that. Whatever it is, you in the house basically. The house has energy. It has the energy, presumably, of the builders and the people that might have lived there before and everything. And you have to basically mesh yourself with it and make yourself in tune with it.
Yeah.
And actually, that leads to an interesting question, Mary. So, do objects also come with spirits or energy attached to them?
They can, yeah, absolutely. You be careful from buying things at an antique store.
That's what I was just going to say. So isn't the great Canadian tradition of garage sailing, isn't that something that's actually a little bit on the dangerous side then?
You got to be careful with what you pick up. Make sure you touch it really well before you buy it, because you don't know what you're bringing into your house. You could bring anything. I had to clear a house out for that. One of the ladies brought something back from Toronto. I don't know what it was.
From Toronto, yeah.
Spirit energy that she brought back. We had to clear the whole house.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yep, from a little mask she bought. She bought from a little shop. I don't know. It was a little African mask or something. She brought it back, and whoa, things started moving in her house. And oh yeah, we had to go clear that out.
Wow, sounds like a horror movie.
Yeah, yeah. So be careful. Be careful what you bring in your house.
Yeah, never buy creepy old dolls.
Yeah. Yeah, never buy creepy old dolls.
Stay away from Raggedy Ann dolls, because it wasn't the China doll. It's really a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah.
Did you see the real Annabelle?
No, we read the book. I don't know if Rob remembers this, but Towers, a friend of ours, had the book, and we all had a turn reading it. And yeah, that Raggedy Ann doll thing, that the movie doesn't do it, I guess, injustice.
No.
So
no, it was the real stuff.
Can you be more clear? You better tell our audience what you're talking about.
The movie Annabelle with Lorraine Warren. Lorraine Warren is an incredible medium psychic, and she was a demonologist. So she has done incredible things. Now her husband's name was Ed. He's passed away since then, but the movie The Conjuring is based on them too. So that's their work early on. Now, Annabelle is a doll, and they made a movie of it. They made the movie this scary porcelain doll. No, Annabelle's a big old Raggedy Ann doll.
Right.
But they have her locked up in a case, and they bless it. They bless it once a week to keep her locked up, because she is locked. Do not open that case, because this doll is incredibly possessed.
Right.
And the movie didn't do it any justice for the horror that this doll, the energy that's attached to this doll, they can't seem to break it, so they have it locked up.
And so that doll really exists. This is a real doll that's sitting in a case somewhere that they're praying over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they keep it locked up. Apparently, they have a whole room full of stuff that they've collected, and in conjunction with that, there's also John Zaffe, who is the haunted collector. Have you seen that program on TV?
No.
Well, I've met him, and I've seen some of his artifacts, and they're pretty freaky, because he goes in and people will say, this thing is haunted, this piano, this doll, this uniform, and they've had one young girl bought an old army jacket. Well, all of a sudden she started getting sick. Crazy stuff started to happen to her because she wanted to wear this army jacket, this really cool army jacket. And I have pictures of that stuff, because I met them all. John Zaffe, I have pictures of that jacket.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in and he checked it all out and he took it from her, and he does some kind of thing with it, I think with salt and with prayer ritual and holy water. Some of the stuff he's actually had to bury because it's so bad. And he has to bury it where nobody can find it. And one doll, in fact, the police came because they saw him throw it off the bridge. They thought it was a person.
Right.
But he wanted to sink it in a deep, deep river so nobody would ever come across it again. But he had to,
Right.
The police were involved in this whole, he told this really funny story about it. But yeah, he goes in, and it's actually a program. He's called Haunted Collector, and his name is John Zaffe. And he's got a whole property, a whole big, big, huge barn that he keeps all these things in that aren't so bad, but the really bad stuff has to be buried, burned, or drowned.
That still sounds like not a good thing. It's like you're sticking all these like demonically possessed artifacts in one place. There's no way that can work out well.
Well, his wife won't let them bring him in the house. So
I bet.
Farm. So he figures he's cleared them all, and then he brings it back to him, and it's all in this place that he's got all safe with salt or whatever the ritual he does to keep it all safe and locked up. I wouldn't want that stuff in my house.
No. You can't bring that in the house, dear. That's just not happening.
No. But he's a really nice guy. I met him a couple of years ago. Really nice guy. But yeah, he's got some funny stories, some scary stories. But you can watch his program. It was a TV show.
Collector.
The Haunted Collector. Yeah.
I've never heard of it before,
and
but
he's
sounds
just this
interesting.
little guy from, I think he lives in New York somewhere. But he's really cute. He's just this little guy, this old guy, really nice man. But yeah, I've got some pictures of the stuff. I can send you those pictures, Don.
Can you imagine
a few pictures?
Yeah. Imagine a guy that inherits his property when he dies.
Yeah.
Well, his daughter does it with him, so his daughter's involved in all this stuff, but his wife doesn't want anything to do with it. So he has to keep it all out in this back building on the back of their property because his wife's like, you're not bringing this in my house. Although really, I don't know what the difference is. If it's 100 feet away, it's still in the vicinity. So if there's energy attached to it, it's going to move around.
Yeah.
It can.
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. Unless it's really, really attached to the article. I wouldn't take that chance.
No, I wouldn't either.
No.
Well, be interesting if every time he goes to the back barn, everything is moved. Everything's in different places every time he goes back.
He never said anything about that, but why not, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's all cataloged. It's all locked up. But I've seen pictures of Annabelle, and that's really freaky. She's in a locked case with a big sign, "Do not open." And they have a priest come out every week. I think it's every week, and bless this thing, so has to stay in it.
Yeah, because
I would have burned that too. I would have burned it. I would have buried it, burned it, whatever I had to do. I mean, get a backhoe and really dig it like 50 feet in the ground and bury it and burn it. I don't know.
Because the problem is next week you'd find it in your bed.
Yeah.
If you burned it? I don't know.
Maybe.
I thought they did.
You buried it.
Yeah, I thought they did try to destroy it, and something really, really odd happened, and that's why they decided to just lock it up.
Something with their daughter. Something happened with their daughter with this doll. It attacked their daughter or something. Well, if I remember correctly.
It would scratch people.
Yeah.
That you'd get near
more than that, one woman committed suicide because of the doll.
Yeah, that story in the book, because it was if I remember, the first time they had a problem is they had it blessed, and when they came back, it was praying. It was in kneeling, like it was praying, and they couldn't get it out of that position. And it's right handle. It has no rigid parts at all in it.
And the priest died too. The priest got in a car accident. Like all kinds of crazy stuff happened.
Yeah. At that point, I'm like, guess who's going on eBay? This is
Who wants a cursed doll?
Yeah. Set it on fire. I would have burned it. Put it in a big metal cage and burn it.
Yeah.
Lock the cage and burn it.
Yeah.
But if you do that, maybe you might be unleashing something that's attached to it, though. That's the problem. It might move to something else.
Maybe.
True.
Remember, that's just its physical anchor, but if you take away its anchor, who knows, right?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I don't know enough about that stuff. I haven't studied a whole lot about it. I don't want to know. I don't want to be involved in any of that crap.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about, but not to experience.
No, I don't think I would like that at all. It was enough what I saw in Boston. That was enough.
Yeah, because there's for most traditions, there's if you're gonna do something like burn something like that, you have to. Oh shoot, I can't remember exactly because that's where a lot of times what you'll do is you'll set it up, and then they do the ring of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
well,
then if
there's salt all the way around the doll.
Yeah, but if you're destroying it and you use an iron, it has to be like a cold iron cage.
I don't know.
Yes, sounds about right.
Yeah, there's different traditions. That's why if you ever see like an actual, say, like exorcism or that, there's usually more than one person because you set up like a barrier, and that's what it's for, so stuff doesn't get away.
Yeah, you have to have at least two.
Because there was somebody else. There was another one, like the Haunted Collector, and I remember this from years ago. That it was they had a problem with it was a spirit in a house that the family would keep moving and it followed them, and he managed to get it away from the family, but it started following him.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
Wasn't that Chip Coffey with Paranormal State?
Oh, I don't know. I remember, like, I read about it. This would have been back in like the early 80s.
Oh, okay, then it's not him. Because something like that, if I'm correct, I think that happened on one of those episodes too.
Yeah, and that was, but it couldn't, because he was familiar with this sort of thing. It couldn't really do anything except like just sort of be irritating once in a while. But he couldn't get rid of this whatever it was. I can't remember. Yeah, it was a long time ago that I read that one.
It just kind of hung out and was annoying.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the takeaway from all this is spirits are just really annoying.
Sometimes. They're just like people. You get good, bad, and ugly, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. Actually, that leads to something though. So, what do spirits look like, Mary? Like, do you see balls of energy? Do you see people? What do we see exactly?
Yes, all of that. It depends on their energy. It depends on my energy. Sometimes I just see an outline. Sometimes I see a ball of energy. Sometimes I actually see a shadow of a whole person. Sometimes I see a whole person. There's no. It's always different.
Right.
And it depends on the person I'm reading. It depends on my energy, the spirit's energy, whoever wants to come through. Sometimes they'll come as smells. I'll smell a certain, like a cigarette smell or a pipe smell or a certain perfume or something very definitive that they would recognize.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I can see something in some sense that's associated with them.
Absolutely. A lot of time they come with smells.
Right. So when you can actually, let's say times when you can actually see a person, would they look like they would when they died, or would they look like they were when they were alive?
They look like they would when they're alive, and they look misty. It's not always completely solid. I've only seen completely solid a couple times.
Right.
And usually, if they're completely solid, I'll catch them out of the corner of my eye. I had a whole conversation downstairs in Main Bank when I was a banker with who I thought was my supervisor, Tim. I saw this man in a black suit, solid man in a black suit, and I was at my computer so I could see him out of the corner of my right eye, and I had full-on conversation. Now, he wasn't talking, I was talking. And then when I turned around, he was gone, and then I was like, okay, wait a minute, I'm down here by myself.
Right, who is that?
Yeah. But it happened that Tim also had a black suit on that day, and I thought I was having a conversation with Tim.
Right.
And I used to have lots of experience in the casino. Lots. Especially working midnights.
Well, yeah.
Because there are a lot of people there that they claim to see things like in the basement, like where most of the banks and that are. That a lot of even people who don't profess to have any kind of like ability at all, they'll see people in the banks out of the corner of their eye, or they'll see somebody. It looks like they walk into the office and nobody's there, and that happens a lot.
Now, is this the result of the location where the casino was built?
That's possible.
Or do you just, or is it just that so many people die in the casino?
Yeah, that too. And who knows who was there 200 years ago, 300 years ago?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of people that have died in there. A lot of people don't want to eat. They're diabetic. They keel over.
Well, not just that, but you get a lot of older customers in that. So
right,
they have like people dying. Well, I wouldn't say all the time, but it's often enough.
A lot.
Yeah, it's often enough that they know how to deal with it right away.
Yeah.
You'll see the security.
Do you guys have your own medical team at the casino?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's security.
Yeah, you'll see them running with the crash bags every now and then. That's what it usually is. Somebody either got passed out or somebody died in the hotel. But that happens anywhere you get a lot of like customers like that.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you would think though that if they were dying in the hotel, let's say the hotel portion, you wouldn't see them down in the basement in the bank though, because there's no connection there. They'd be theoretically up in the rooms or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on where they would see the light, right? Eye attract.
That's true.
I've had experiences in the gift shop where I work now. I've had things move.
Right.
And I wasn't the only one that saw it.
And don't forget too that downstairs in the banks is where the money is stored.
So they would be attracted to that, right?
Yeah,
gamblers.
like that would. And then you have to remember, like the Windsor area, especially the casinos at the waterfront, during the War of 1812, this was a major hot spot for fighting.
Yes, it was.
So there was all kinds of like horrible action that happened at the riverfront, and some of that could be echoing to this day.
Absolutely.
Quite likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So like I said, who knows who was here 200, 300, 400 years ago? Even before that.
Yeah. Because one of the weirdest things in town is if you visit and go wandering, you'll end up like in the back of an alley, and there'll be a pedestal with a war memorial in the back of a random alley, and it's because way back when, 150, 200 years ago, there was a big fight there, and this was actually, and now it's just behind a restaurant somewhere, but...
Well, it's the nature of having a historical town.
This is true.
That and Windsor's a messed up place, so...
This is also true.
Yeah, I believe the technical term is high strangeness. Yeah.
Yes, this is true.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
But you still, Don, you still have to tell Rob what you said to me about my book the other day.
Oh yeah, you guys mentioned a book before the interview. Please tell me about this.
You have to tell him what you said to me, because you cracked me right up.
Oh, which
about
book
the book
was
that
it?
I was carrying around, the spiritualism book.
Oh shoot, I don't remember what I don't remember exactly what I said.
It was a book from 1857.
Yeah, it's like a first edition of one of these
these
occult spiritual manuals. Yeah.
Yes, and you said I was going to get hit by a car, and end up when they go digging through my stuff, I was going to end up on one of those. What kind of show did you say it was?
Or you're going to end up on one of those mysterious mystery show, because they're going to find that in your book, and they'll find your rings and stuff, and they'll be then there'll be a movie made out of it.
Oh, I was dying when he said that to me, just right off the hop. He didn't miss a beat. What book are you reading? Yeah, you're gonna get hit by a car, and they're gonna find this in your stuff, and you're gonna be on one of those shows.
Yeah, you're gonna be an urban legend.
Yes, that's what it was. I was
200,
dying.
200 years from now, kids will see you hiding around the corner and stuff.
Right.
Because you're always carrying one of those. I remember because you're a big Aleister Crowley fan, so you're usually going through some of his stuff.
Yes, I do like to read, and I have a whole metaphysical library.
So since you are so well read in this area, actually, if someone was interested in researching or learning more about this stuff, what books would you recommend they start with? What are the starter books for learning about this subject?
Well, To start with something really easy, I would go with something by Grace Cook. She channels White Eagle. And White Eagle is a spirit energy who, how can I explain White Eagle? What's the easiest way to explain White Eagle? Oh, brother. Really simple reading, really simple truths, basic spirituality, talking about Christ's white light, the white brotherhood, which I don't mean white people, I mean higher energies is when I talk about white brotherhood. Ascended masters, as in Buddha, as in Krishna, as in Christ, that kind of stuff. Anything by Andrew Jackson Davis, very, very good stuff. Anything by Arthur Finley, anything by Arthur Conan Doyle. But the White Eagle series is a real simple read, real simple read. And it's a good place to start. They're small books. They're still in print. They're really, really good if you want to open up to spirituality, to very simple truths. It's not a lot of flowery language. It's, and I'm not saying people aren't intelligent, but it's a lot of just keep it simple, right to the point.
Right.
And anything by Khalil Gibran. He is a Lebanese poet, and he's very, 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 very spiritual and incredibly profound.
Okay. That's great. I'll definitely make sure to link
more stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Ruth Montgomery, my buddy Aleister Crowley, you know, anything you get your hands on, anything that resonates truth with you.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll link to all those in the show notes.
Keep it simple. Start with the Bible. Read the Bible. If you can understand the Bible, you can get something from the Bible, you can go from there.
Okay. I can see that. Well, or the Bible, or you would, obviously, that would include then the Quran then, or the Jewish Torahs, or any of the religious books. Okay, that makes sense. Based on our conversation so far, it sounds like Hinduism for Dummies or Buddhism for Dummies might be in order too, if such a book exists anyway.
Absolutely. Any of those kind of things. Because the stuff I read might not necessarily be something they want to read. Anything by Mary Summer Rain. She is a native writer, writes very, very simply. Mountains, Meadows, and Moonbeams is it's written for children, but it's a really basic book to talk about spirit guides, to talk about astral projection, to talk about the energy centers. And it's written in a very simple way that anybody can get it. It's a really good place to start.
All right. Definitely recommend that. Add that to the list.
And it's non-denominational, you know. It's not, it doesn't have a spin of Catholicism or Hinduism or anything else. It's just really written simply. And anything by Doreen Virtue is always really good, too, if you want to go into modern writers. And Sylvia Browne books are good, too. I didn't learn anything from them because my teacher was better than Sylvia Browne. Forgive me. Rest her soul.
Right.
But it was similar to her teaching. What I was already learning, she was writing the same thing.
Dawn, any final questions before we move on? I think most of mine have been answered, but I've been doing a lot of the talking.
That's okay. It's been awesome. All the way around, it's been awesome.
Because I would add, when you talk about your reading list, and I'd like to see what your take on this would be. One thing I would suggest to people would be getting into the Zazen, which is the meditation, and what it does. It lets you kind of get into your own head without being scared of what's in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that would be important because I find too many times when people get into like the spiritualism or the metaphysical, they're doing it because there's something they want, and because of that, they tend to project too much of what they want into what they're picking up.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where you get like a lot of like dishonesty. You get a lot of you buy the magic token for luck and love and stuff like that. And that's why I think part of it too, like the Zazen especially, you can sort of work through that for yourself before ascribing anything to like a bigger world or to like another world or that. And I think that would help a lot of people too, and that might assuage the kind of things that's bothering them or the kind of desires that are leading them into something that might take them down the wrong road.
You know, the best advice I can give anybody is keep it simple. The simple route is the best way. Don't go for in all this flowery. When I do my thing, it's simple. What you see is what you get. I don't wear crazy makeup. I don't wear crazy clothes. It's a real simple table. There's nothing. I don't spray glitter in the air. You know, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Say what you see, and that's it. Keep it simple.
Right.
In anything, keep it simple. You go off on all this nonsense, and it's like smoke and mirrors. No, keep it simple.
Actually, there's a question. I do have one more question for you before you go. So, and I hope this doesn't trigger you, but I'm going to say it anyway. So, is there such a thing as fortune tellers? Can people actually tell the future?
Well, that's kind of what I do, but fortune teller is very, very insulting.
Okay, why?
In my opinion, because it takes me back to old school charlatan gypsies. That's what I think of when I see fortune teller. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm a spiritual counselor.
Ah, okay.
I do see past, present, and future, depending on what your need is at this moment. I don't get to control what comes through. It's not an exact science. So fortune teller is like calling somebody who's a paramedic an ambulance driver. It's kind of insulting to me, anyways. I don't know. Maybe I should lighten up about it, but it just sets the hair on the back of my neck up. Don't call me fortune teller.
Okay, I won't. I'll make sure
it's for all the work that I put into this. I find it insulting.
Right.
And I know people don't mean it. People are just naive, and people are simple, and they really don't know, and they really don't mean anything by it. But it just sets my teeth on edge. It just, I have to just chill for a second before. It's rude.
Okay. Yeah, I can. Okay, I understand that now. No. So we won't refer to you as that again. But I do have to ask then. So if you're often telling people about like their future and such, what does that mean that the future is set? Like, or are you just talking about possible futures?
It's like a video game. I get to see one possible ending because you are the master of your own destiny. Always, 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 always. So if you change one thing, I'm showing you a possible outcome. If you do this, this will happen. If you do this, you change that. So no matter what, it doesn't matter what I say, and I tell them that right from the start. Doesn't matter what I say, you're the master of your own destiny. Just because I say it doesn't make it so.
Right.
Well, that kind of gets the idea of a doppelganger that came up at the beginning. Was a lot of times, because that's more kind of like around like the Norway kind of thing area, and what they say it was is seeing your doppelganger was usually a portent of disaster.
Yes.
And I've heard the theory that what happens is because if some horrible event happens to you, it kind of creates ripples. That shock creates kind of like a spiritual energy, and that energy it goes back and forth, like it ripples out
through time.
Yeah, and what a doppelganger is you're detecting some of these waves of this energy from something horrible coming.
Oh, kind of like a buffer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're seeing an echo of yourself being sent back from the spiritual explosion, we'll say, in the future.
Yeah.
It's coming back through time.
That's really cool.
Because that's if you're talking about portents of the future, that's another one of them areas that even by our scientific understanding, we only have a loose grasp of time.
Absolutely.
And that's like, I think of this because I had a great grandmother that could supposedly, she could tell the future. And she'd always said that was why she was blind, was because we're not supposed to know, and that was God's punishment, that he took away her sight for seeing the future.
That's very Catholic.
It is.
Well, yeah,
Hmm.
I have a hard time with that
Hmm.
Mhm.
because I don't believe that she would be punished for being able to see the future. I
It,
think of it as a gift, and
mhm.
I think that is the old Catholic, I need to be punished
Mhm.
mentality coming back.
it,
Because we're
Mhm.
it,
raised like that right from the get-go. You're a bad
yeah.
kid, you're bad this, you're bad that, you need to be punished, and they teach you that God wants to punish you. I don't believe that for a second.
Well, the two things I'd say that kind of, I won't say mitigate, but add to the
Yep.
conversation. She would use stuff like that. Like supposedly she was a practicing black witch, which meant she'd use her ability to cause harm and for her
Okay,
own
well then
gain.
that makes more sense then.
Mhm. And there's also the idea, like I was saying before, that what we ascribe a consciousness to, like we'll call it God or we'll call it a spirit or a demon
Yep.
or whatever, that
Yep.
Mhm.
it's just a projection of our own will.
Mhm.
And if you're doing something that you feel is naughty, that your own ability could wage some kind of punishment against you
Oh,
because that's
yes.
Right.
that's
Yeah.
your expectation, and that's
Yeah,
what fuels all of this.
Mm.
absolutely psychosomatic.
Hmm.
Yeah. You feel you deserve to be
Yeah.
punished, so you will be punished.
Mhm. Yeah, well that makes a lot of sense.
Makes sense.
And
Mm.
then it can have real world results because if you're
Mhm.
dealing with that high a level of this ambient spiritual energy, it can have physical manifestations which would be imprinted by your own feelings of like guilt or nastiness.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah,
So we really are the masters of our own fate and
you
creators of
are.
our own doom.
Except if we totally aren't.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, on that note, I think we better bring this to a
Okay, yeah,
close.
Dawn's
So that's a
over.
perfect spot, actually. So thank you very much, Mary, for coming
Oh,
on.
thank you, fellas. Thank you. This was
It,
wonderful.
yeah, it's been great talking with
Yeah.
you again, and it's been great. I should tell our audience this is actually our second time trying this interview. The first time got eaten up by mysterious circumstances, a technical issue. At least that's what we're going to go with. And so so this is our second try with Mary, and actually I think it's gone actually much better than the first one. It's much more focused and very smooth.
Yes.
So and no, so maybe it was a good thing the first version was lost. Who knows?
There
But
you
it's been
go.
great to talk with you again anyway.
Nice chatting with you, fellas.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
okay, so thanks everyone for listening, and tune in next time when we'll talk about amazing stuff that you will not believe, and we'll find out what it is on the next episode of the Department of Nerdly Affairs. Bye, everyone.
Holiday special.
Bye.
Holiday special.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like to hear more or join the conversation, come visit us at obeythedna.com. You can also find us on iTunes or whatever fine podcast site forgot to lock their back door. So until next time, remember that to master the nerdly arts takes time, practice, and enough Coca-Cola to drop a rhino. See ya! Come on over and join the conversation at obeythedna.com, where you will find show notes and more.